This is CBC Vancouver News.
So it was very comforting for the firefighter that was involved to be able to know that his child was in good care. You can imagine how emotional that would be.
More than a dozen children and school staff are recovering following a terrifying crash involving a school bus in BC's central interior. The crash hitting close to home for one of the first responders on scene. And
she was at the peak of her life. Things were good for her, you know. She was looking at getting married. Her business was doing well.
Hundreds gathered to remember a young woman who was killed during a suspected home invasion in Surrey's Port Kells neighborhood. The family says there are still a lot of questions left unanswered. Plus,
we had a gosling that was brought in with fishing line wrapped around its legs.
Experts say they are seeing an alarming spike in injured wildlife. The culprit, discarded fishing gear left behind in the wilderness. Hello, thanks for joining us. I'm Janella Hamilton. We are learning more today about a serious crash involving a school bus full of children on Highway 97 in BC's Cariboo region. Dozens of elementary school students were returning from a field trip when the bus went down a steep embankment yesterday. 2 people had to be extracted from the wreckage, and a number of people were taken to the hospital with injuries. One turned out to be the child of one of the responding firefighters. Michelle Morton has our top story.
Nearly 40 grade 6 and 7 students, as well as staff from this elementary school and nearby Horse Lake Elementary, are recovering after the school bus they were riding in went off the highway, crashing down an embankment north of Lac La Hache Friday afternoon. The school district says the children and families were reunited that evening, and it's now making plans around how to support them.
I think everybody's, pretty relieved that the scope of the injuries in terms of some broken bones, and some sprains and some concussions probably, while that's not good, certainly better than people were fearing.
He says the students were returning home from a field trip to Gavin Lake when the bus crashed. BC Emergency Health Services says 14 people were taken to hospital. 7 of those were airlifted. Officials say one of the patients airlifted is the child of one of the first responders on scene.
The other parent was able to receive their child at the hospital on the other end. So it was very comforting for the firefighter that was involved to be able to know that his child was in good care and was being treated. And he was able to concentrate on the rest of the children that needed to be assisted with at the scene. So you can imagine how emotional that would be.
He says one of his volunteer firefighters was injured, rescuing the driver and a student who were trapped inside the damaged bus.
We had a firefighter that injured his hand severely in the extrication process and needed to drive himself to the hospital and had his hand repaired.
Police say following the bus crash, there was a second collision in the same location. One person was struck and killed by a vehicle.
Our investigators are still working hard to determine what exactly the pedestrian was doing on the highway and what exactly happened with them.
RCMP say the cause of the bus crash is still being investigated. Michelle Morton, CBC News, Vancouver.
Hundreds of mourners gathered for a candlelit vigil at Surrey Bend Regional Park tonight to honor Tori Dunn, who was killed in the Port Kells neighborhood last weekend. Dunn's family says the 30-year-old business owner died from injuries sustained during a suspected home invasion.
A lot of us know those fun stories she loved telling.
Investigators say police were called to a home near 98th Avenue and 182nd A Street around 10 o'clock Sunday night. When they arrived, they found Dunn suffering from life-threatening injuries. She later died in hospital. Tori's father, visibly heartbroken, says his daughter and her fiancé had just gotten back from a birthday party when they were attacked inside their home. He says the vigil is to remember his daughter and to demand justice and answers.
She was at the peak of her life. Things were good for her, She was looking at getting married. Her business was doing well, but she was in her own home.
iHit says a suspect was arrested on the night of the attack and remains in custody for an unrelated charge, but has not yet been charged with Tori's killing. Investigators are asking anyone with dash cam or surveillance video in the area around the time of the killing to contact them. Capilano University campuses in North Vancouver will remain closed this weekend after a student reportedly made a violent threat towards another student on Thursday. The university did not state the exact nature of the threat or who was involved. Police have been notified, and the school says there is no ongoing threat to students. The university is expected to provide an update Sunday night on when campuses will reopen. There appears to be another sewage leak near False Creek for the second time this week. Today, city crews were working on controlling a sewer main leak on Terminal Avenue at Main Street near Science World, where thousands of people are competing this weekend at a Dragon Boat Festival. Another large sewage leak happened 2 days ago in nearby Olympic Village, but the city says it's too early to know if the two issues are connected. After consultation with Vancouver Coastal Health, the competition was given the all clear to go ahead. Extra hygiene measures were brought in for paddlers. A wildlife rescue organization is calling attention to an alarming spike in severe wildlife injuries caused by fishing gear left behind in the wilderness. As Sohrab Sandhu tells us, one expert says those enjoying the sport need to be more mindful of the environment.
Hanging around ducklings is hard to beat, but not all the sights at the Wildlife Rescue Association of BC are as pleasant. They say there have been 5 incidents in 2 weeks in which wildlife have been severely injured. The cause? Discarded fishing gear.
A mallard was brought into our facility with a fishing hook through its beak. We had a gosling that was brought in with fishing line wrapped around its legs. We were able to remove that.
Becker says these entanglements can be life-threatening.
If an animal has fishing line entangled around its legs or wing, something could get cut off from blood circulation. So that's a very serious risk for the animal, and it will not be able to survive on its own unless it comes off.
She says rescuing entangled animals can be challenging. By the time volunteers reach the site, the animals may be hard to catch or disappear, still in distress.
It is happening more frequently right now than other years. We do see it every spring and summer, but there's a lot of reports coming in right now.
Mike Gass with the Freshwater Fisheries Society of BC says the stray fishing lines at issue can come about for a number of reasons.
With anglers or people that are fishing, it tends to be just like any kind of other litter that unfortunately gets left behind, but it shouldn't.
Gass says his organization is trying to raise awareness for anglers to dispose of the fishing line properly once they are done.
So this receptacle, it's got a flap.
His team has been running a line recycling program to encourage more anglers to clean up after themselves. They have these containers littered around popular BC parks.
So if you see discarded fishing line or, fishing line that's left accidentally, please make sure you clean it up, or any other plastic garbage or garbage in general. All of these things can be a threat for the well-being of wildlife.
Sohrab Sandhu, CBC News, Vancouver.
About a dozen people attended a benefit concert this afternoon for Jolene Wang, a 15-year-old girl who was struck by a car outside Lord Byng Secondary School in late January, leaving the teen with serious life-altering injuries.
We wanted to show support for the family that have endured all kinds of financial strain and emotional hardship from her injury. She's still in critical care.
The music we are playing is also quite emotional at some parts, so that will definitely resonate with some people.
The youth concert took place at the Vancouver Academy of Music, where Jolene's brother went to school. All proceeds raised will go to the Wang family. Now that summer is here, thousands of British Columbians are heading outdoors each weekend to soak up the beauty of the province's wilderness. But as Tom Popick reports, people don't always leave nature how they found it. Now, a dedicated group of Okanagan volunteers are stepping in to clean up the mess with the help of new digital tools.
Drive out into the Okanagan forests and the wilderness seems pristine. But Kane Blake knows better.
Oh, they're everywhere.
Party sites like this dot the back roads filled with garbage, burned out bonfires, even bullets and shotgun casings.
Our license plates say beautiful British Columbia, but we can go into many of the places we call beautiful, and once you're actually there, it's not so beautiful. You have to go through a sea of garbage to get to those beautiful places, which isn't right.
But since 2016, his Okanagan Forest Task Force, some 3,000 volunteers have been busy cleaning up. On their last cleanup day,
we pulled out just over 129,000 pounds of garbage. We filled up 4 semi-trucks, and we had dump trucks and dumpsters all day long going back and forth to the landfill.
Party sites are just the beginning. The task force has found massive illegal dumping sites, dozens of cars ditched down gullies.
A few people used to live up here.
RVs abandoned and homeless camps deep in the bush. Over 1 million pounds of trash have been hauled out.
It just upset me. I couldn't believe that people would do that.
Dan Carter has been coming out to cleanups for years, but he's now getting his hands dirty digitally.
You just report garbage.
He's designed a new task force app allowing anyone to geotag and photograph dump sites shared to the task force and authorities.
This couldn't work anywhere in the world right now. So it comes down to finding more people and more groups across Canada to start. To start in BC, actually.
The hope that efforts here will inspire other regions of the province.
Start the groups, start the volunteer organizations, and the tools will always be free. There's going to be no charges, nothing. And it's to keep the forest clean, right? It's for a good thing.
Tom Popick, CBC News, near Beaver Lake, BC.
Back in the Lower Mainland, the Vancouver Park Board is testing out new equipment to address the city's growing goose poop problem. The tractor-pulled machine is similar to a pooper scooper collecting droppings as it moves across the grass. Take a look.
How do you feel about geese?
Well, they're a dirty bird to begin with. Okay, as you can see, there's feces everywhere, and I don't know how you're going to get rid of them.
I know they just eat grass, but still, I don't want to step on their poop.
We got a new piece of equipment that you might see out and about in places like sports fields. David Lamb Park is a place where we've been piloting that equipment. And it gets towed behind a tractor or a gator, which is kind of like a tractor, and picks up droppings off the ground. There are impacts to the goose population and the droppings that they leave. It happens on pool decks and sports fields and other grassy areas. Geese are attracted to those spaces, so we do our best to monitor the on-the-ground situation and deal with the impacts of those droppings and those geese as best we can. So our operations staff are out and about piloting that equipment to see how and where it will work best for us.
From groove to classic swing, the Vancouver International Jazz Festival returns this weekend with a series of free shows at the Vancouver Art Gallery. Live shows were held from noon to 7:30 tonight. Performances will take place at the same time tomorrow in downtown Vancouver. Still ahead, can the former mayor of Calgary change the NDP's fortunes in Alberta? That's next. Stay with us. Wildfires are still burning out of control in Labrador, 2 of them very close to the town of Churchill Falls. Hundreds of evacuees are now in the town of Happy Valley, Goose Bay, but today plans began for longer-term solutions. Kayla Hounsell has the latest.
We're just sort of hanging out until we can figure out what to do, where to go.
The Powers are looking for information about what comes next.
What about going?
They are among hundreds forced to flee their homes in Churchill Falls Wednesday. Their employer, Newfoundland and Labrador Hydro, has set up here in Happy Valley Goose Bay to help them make long-term plans because there is no end in sight.
This is absolutely amazing. Our employers are making sure that we all know what's coming forward.
Churchill Falls is a true company town. It exists to power the massive hydroelectric plant that provides electricity to Newfoundland and Labrador and parts of Quebec.
We deal with many aspects of people's lives that are not normally addressed by an employer, and so it becomes much more of almost a family relationship. I've known many of these people for many, many years.
As for the fire, the most critical one is still burning within 7 kilometers of Churchill Falls, but it has not grown and it is still on the other side of the Churchill River, a natural barrier protecting the town.
We have no estimate of when the residents are going to be able to get back. The forecast 4 or 5 days out is for sunny weather.
In the meantime, the Powers are trying to enjoy the moment.
Thank you for answering the call, because I know all of 2 people and you were the only one who replied. So
they know they have it better than most.
We take care of each other. So we take in random strangers. I've never met them before. That's what we do here in Labrador.
Yes, she invited random strangers into her home in the middle of the night.
there's some trust, right? Somebody who's going to be that vulnerable and take the risk of opening their home to let complete strangers in. You almost have to have the trust back, right? Go, go, go! Right in the net, right in the net!
Trademark Newfoundland and Labrador hospitality, creating lifelong friendships at the most difficult of times. Kayla Hounsell, CBC News, Happy Valley Goose Bay.
Naheed Nenshie's leadership victory is ushering in a new political era in Alberta's New Democrats. The former Calgary mayor is igniting new excitement around the party with bold plans to represent the official opposition and hopefully lead the party to its next win in provincial politics. The CBC's Joe Horwood has more from the convention in Calgary.
Please join me in welcoming the new leader of the Alberta NDP, Naheed Nenshie.
More of a coronation than a competition. Naheed Nenshie voted the new leader of the Alberta NDP by a landslide. Of almost 73,000 ballots cast, 86% were for him. That's more than 10 times the votes for runner-up Kathleen Ganley.
I, like all of you, was increasingly troubled by the direction of our government, by the direction of our province, by the direction of our home.
To applause from hundreds of NDP members, the former Calgary mayor promised to continue the momentum of the leaders before him. And he's off to a strong start. At the end of last year, the NDP membership sat at about 16,000 people. Now, those ranks have swelled to more than 85,000.
The Alberta NDP today is the largest provincial political party in Canada.
Bringing up MLAs, campaign supporters, and the 3 unsuccessful candidates to join him on stage, Nenshie's NDP is already presenting a united front to take on Daniel Smith and the UCP.
The stories I was hearing from our premier and our government, the place they were describing, didn't feel like our home. They were describing an Alberta that I didn't recognize. They were describing an Alberta that is so very, very small. And in Alberta, we are many things, but we are not small.
Now, with overwhelming support from the party, Nenshi is setting his sights on his next task. He has 3 years until the next provincial election is scheduled to happen. But Nenshi calls that a means to an end. His real goal, he says, is the change that would come after an NDP win. Jo Horwitz, CBC News, Calgary.
Here we have a live shot looking towards the Burrard Inlet and North Vancouver. I'll have your full forecast coming up next.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox.
CBC is the proud media partner of the Squamish Nation Youth Powwow, July 5th to the 7th. The cultural event welcomes everyone to a vibrant celebration of vivid colors, rhythmic music, and a strong sense of community. Tickets at SquamishNationYouthPowwow.com. And never miss a special programming series, event, or contest. Subscribe to CBC Vancouver's e-newsletter and keep connected with us.
All right, it is time now to take a look at our forecast. Let's begin with a peek at the regions around the province tonight. Let's begin with Dease Lake. Lots of rain across the board. 8 degrees in Dease Lake tonight, 12 in Fort St. John, 13 in Kamloops, and 12 in Victoria. That rain is going to stick around for tomorrow in most areas, with a chance of increased thunderstorms in Fort St. John, with a high of 19 for tomorrow, 18 in Williams Lake, 18 on the island in Victoria. Kamloops looks to be a little more dry, same with Kelowna, with a high of 24 and 25, and Cranbrook as well with a high of 27 for tomorrow. So definitely some heat in those areas mixed in with that increased thunderstorm warning for many areas here in Metro Vancouver. Rain tomorrow with a high of 18, rain on Monday, and it is going to continue to be pretty wet all week long. Thousands of paddlers flocked to False Creek today for day one of the Concord Pacific Dragon Boat Festival. Organizers say this is the largest Dragon Boat Festival in all of North America. More than 6,000 racers from around the world are competing in the two-day event. All eyes were on the skies as Vancouverites were treated to a spectacular light show tonight. The public drone show is part of the Dragon Boat Festival festivities and happened over False Creek. The light show showcased imagery linked to dragon boat racing traditions, Chinatown, Vancouver, and artwork from renowned Squamish artists. That is super cool. That is your late news for this Saturday. Thank you so much for watching. For news at any hour, you can always head to our website at cbc.ca/bc. Hope you have a great night.